All right, so this is a topic I think we need to actually address because it's making its rounds on social media. It's been doing this for a while, but now it's actually hit the mainstream news cycle as well. This article itself was maybe like 2 weeks back, I want to say. But let's go ahead and get into what we're going to be talking about, which is, and I'm going to say it, and I know a lot of podcasters say it. We usually try not to say this word, but I mean, it's become very prominent. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Tim Paul, I'm looking at you. Civil War. Civil War mentions surge online after Kirk assassination, and this is from the New York Times. The term has increasingly been invoked on social media after major politic moments highlights division among Americans. And as you see here from the graph, it jumped up exponentially. Like back in July and August, we were probably under 50,000, and it just surged after that incident to 210,586 mentions of civil war on X. Now, minutes after the shooting of the right wing influencer Charlie Kirk in Utah on Wednesday, calls for civil war begun appearing online. The term civil war was mentioned on Wednesday more than 129,000 times on social platform X, according to any. According to an analysis by the New York Times on Thursday, it was mentioned at least 210 times. This was up from the daily average of around 18,000 in previous months. Many of the posts that include the phrase we reposted on other platforms, including Truth Social, TikTok, and Instagram. The talk of civil war came largely from Republican lawmakers, right wing media personalities, and conservative podcasters, according to a review by the Times. Some questioned whether Americans were already engaged in civil war over its values, while others called for the violence after Mr. Kirk's death. I think you guys should be saying Mr. Kirk's assassination. I get it, death, but facts are facts. Among those who used the phrase were Alex Jones, the creator of InfoWars, a right wing media platform. And I'm going to say this name wrong, I know I am. Shira Recknick, who is behind the Prominent Lips of TikTok social media account, which frequently attacks the LGBTQ community. I don't think she actually attacks them. I think she just kind of brings to light everything they're saying, to be honest. Like, if you're going to post stupid stuff online and then you're going to get upset that now it's being broadcast to the world to see, that's on you. Like, then maybe you shouldn't be, posting stuff online like that. I mean, you're free to do so in America. Hey, free speech, but don't get mad because, I mean, you're just being called out for what you're saying. And then you also have Andrew Tate, the right wing influencer known for his misogyny views. Civil War, Mr. Tate wrote in two word posts on X, and Mr. Kirk was shot. It has been viewed more than 16 million times. The surging use of the term highlights division among Americans and continues a familiar pattern of inflammatory language in recent years. Civil war has been increasingly mentioned on social media after major political moments in the United States, especially those that involve President Trump, according to the Times analysis of the data from Tweetbinder by Audience, a social media analytic company. Rising civil war rhetoric online continues about civil war in America. America took off after several recent political moments, including the FBI raid on President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in 2022, the assassination attempt against him in 2024, and the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The raid we know was all BS, because that was Biden's administration going after a political opponent, to be honest. Like, I don't care what people say, that's just my opinion. Like, people get mad because they feel like Trump's going after his political opponents, but the left started it. So let's go on. After the 2022 FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago, which was part of the Justice Department inquiry into Mr. Trump's attempts to stay in office after the 2020 election, mentions of civil war on X rose to more than 1,118. 118,000, geez. over a 2-day period in July 2024 when a gunman tried to assassinate Mr. Trump at a Pennsylvania rally. More than 260,000 mentions of civil war appeared on X over the next 2 days, and the analysis found. Often the phrase was used in warning, suggesting the right wing Americans are being targeted in the civil war, or uh, goaded, goaded to start one. Other times, Civil War was called to action. Jared Holt, a researcher at Open Measures, a company that monitors influence operations online, said mentions of Civil War on major social media platforms show the term is not fringe conservative. On mainstream platforms, increasingly resemble the kind of extremist content he sees on far right social media sites. He noted the risk the real risk, he said, is that it creates permission structures for threat of violence against perceived political enemies. The term civil war begun rising this week with the right wing personalities and influencers and Republican members of Congress. On Wednesday, Representative Derek Van Orden of Wisconsin posted on X, the left and their policies are leading America into a civil war, and they want it. Honestly, I do think that it might, the rhetoric might be going up. You might see it on social media more now from the right after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but that was because when they called for this, and well, I don't think they were calling for it. I think they were just mentioning it, saying that we're in a civil war because the right is constantly being attacked. You're seeing all these egregious attacks against the right. You're seeing like the assassination of Charlie Kirk. You're seeing the threat level go up for a lot of podcasters that are either middle of the road or right leaning, the ones that basically don't align with the left. Like if you don't walk in lockstep with them, they automatically assume you're just on the right, which is totally far from the truth. And so they're over here increasing threats against these people, calling for what was being done, like all the violence. And when they said that about Trump, when they were talking about civil war, when it happened to Trump, it was more so kind of not calling to arms or anything like that. It was just stating a fact that the right is being attacked, especially like if you're trying to take out someone prominent like Donald Trump, and you're targeting him like that. I mean, what else would you call it? You have all these radical leftists that are doing that, and this is also on part of the left's fault. So you have prominent left people like congressmen, senators that are calling for this. Like J.B. Pritzker was one of them. I gotta look for the video so I can show you guys, but he was saying stuff that was hyperbolic and calling for, like harming, I guess. But in my opinion, that the way his verbiage was, it was basically like calling to arms without, I guess you would say, calling to arms. Like, what he meant. Like, we're not stupid. But yeah, so I think when you have these people saying go out in the streets, get in their face, push them back, like, you shouldn't be saying that. You should just be doing like what Donald Trump said on January 6th, which he was like, go walk to the to the Capitol peacefully, make your voices heard. He didn't say go out and wreck everything. No, he was saying peacefully make your voices heard. You could be upset because you don't like the way things are going, but as long as you're doing it peacefully, that's fine. And if the left was doing that, then that's fine. And you do have some people on the left that go out and peacefully protest, and that was proven in the George Floyd, peaceful protest riots for the Summer of Love and the Chaz Chop. You had people out there, it might have started off peacefully, but then you had these antagonists that would come in and they would go ahead and start rioting. And this is the people that would show up in Black Bloc, the ones that would show up like Antifa, that would go out there, firebomb police stations, that would damage properties, and kick people out because they didn't align with them. There was a lot more harm done during the George Floyd riots than there was with the Charlie Kirk assassination, because when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, people just around the world just had vigils for him. They were holding memorials on his behalf. Nobody was being hurt because of that. They were just letting, themselves mourn a loss of a great person. And the same can't be said about the left. So let's go ahead and continue on with the story. I just kind of wanted to put those 2 cents in there for you. Others did not use the word civil war, but called for a federal crackdown on the left or the people that take other action. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia posted on X on Wednesday that she was praying that the country rise up and ends this. Matt Forney, at right-wing influencer, posted that every Democratic politician must be arrested. Elon Musk, owner and the most followed person on the platform, had one of the most widely shared like posts evoking war after Mr. Kirk's death. Quote, "If they won't leave us in peace, then our choice is fight or die," he wrote. His post was viewed more than 1.7 million times and liked over 37,000 times. By Thursday evening, some prominent right-wing figures had pushed back on the divisive language and called for calm. David Brody, and a commentator with Christian Broadcasting Network, said that while the shooting of Mr. Kirk raised the potential for civil war in the United States, he prayed that it would not turn violent. "We've got to be praying like we've never prayed before," he wrote, end quote. So let me go ahead and bring up some videos to kind of correlate this so that you get a full understanding of why we think that this is happening. So for example, here on X, this is by Wendy O'Cool. This is in regards to Rep. Pramila I can't say that last name, is telling Democrats to get to the streets, to get streets ready. Is this a call to arms to threaten Republicans, maybe a civil war? I'm telling you guys, something serious is coming from these, we need to arm ourselves and be ready. So let's go ahead and play the video.
Is getting strike ready, as getting us strike ready or street ready. And part of that is understanding our own strength. And as we develop that strength, being able to assess our risk tolerance, because we know that risk tolerance increases as the severity of the situation increases and as our own understanding of what's happening increases. So overall, the more we understand what's effective, what the risks are, and who's ready to participate, the more impact.
Okay, so you've seen that, you heard that. Let's go on to the next video. Oh, well, I'm sorry, post. This is from Kevin, and I can't see your last name. The president just authorized the military to use lethal force against U.S. citizens. Trump is doing everything he can to get a civil war started because he knows it'll destroy America. Trump works for Putin, which we all know is BS because it's been proven that the Steele dossier was BS. So, obviously some people are believing this rhetoric, but Donald Trump posted in Truth Social, at the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I am also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So that's what he wrote on there. I don't think he's calling for civil war. He's basically saying, and it's just a fact, and it's been a law, so he's just saying, like, if you do anything to impede, ICE from doing their job or any of the federal agents, you go to jail. You directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. If you push them, if you throw rocks, bottles, whatever, any form of harm you're doing to them, guess what? You're gonna F around, you're gonna find out, and you're gonna end up going to jail. So that's basically all he's saying. We also have this from Steery. Everybody's talking about a war is coming because of Pete Hegseth at Secretary of War called all generals together. I don't think that will happen. What can happen now? The Antifa are officially a terrorist organization. It could be a big national threat coming up. So, yeah, civil war might happen. So let's go ahead and listen to this video. I don't know about you guys, but that just makes me want to go work out. But yeah, so we also have this, and I wanted to play this. This is actually from Fox News. And, comment below while I'm getting all this, going. But, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think we're headed for a civil war? Do you think it's already here? I know we were kind of, I want to say that we were in a civil strife. Um, but I think with all the violence that's currently happening, to the people on the right from the people on the left, I think that's where we're headed. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I see, what I'm hearing. You know, um, I also see what other podcasters are talking about. Both left and right. They all think the same thing. It could just be nonsense. It could be nothing. It could, all of a sudden just cool down. That's where I hope it goes, where it all cools down. But hey, you never know, right? So this is from Fox News. Um, this was 7 hours ago, and this is what they're saying about where we are in a culture civil war, says former House Speaker. So let's go ahead and listen in on this one.
All right, Sandra, let's bring in Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House and a Fox News contributor. Speaker, I've been hoping to get you on for the last couple of weeks since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, because when you consider that, when you consider the attack against the ICE facility in Dallas on Wednesday, this flyer that William Lajeunesse was talking about from a 30,000-foot level, where are we as a nation and where are we headed?
Well, I mean, first of all, you'll notice that when they talk about violence, they don't go back and look at the summer of 2020 when buildings were being burned down, police stations were being burned down, people were being killed. Somehow that violence, which was clearly political, doesn't count in their listing. The left has a long history of violence. In the 1960s, the FBI reported 2,500 bombing attempts in the United States. And we sort of brushed all that off and forgotten about it. But there's a deep tradition in the left of people who hate American society, hate the concept of freedom, have all sorts of negative words to describe us, and feel that they are empowered to go out. The Democrats you quoted about Antifa. Antifa has been causing a nightmare in Portland for years, burning things down. To suggest that Antifa doesn't exist, I think requires living in a fantasy land.
In the hours after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, said this. Listen to this statement here.
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history?
What do you think about that? Charlie Kirk's assassination, it would seem to represent the latter and not the former.
Yeah, look, I think we have to recognize that we are in a genuine, legitimate cultural civil war. There are people on the left, largely big government socialists with weird values, who are sincere. I mean, they really do feel that with the rise of President Trump and the rise of MAGA and having Republicans in charge of the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, that their entire way of life is imperiled, because the world they wanted to create, the world that Barack Obama and Joe Biden was helping them create, was a world which had open borders, had no police or very weak police, had no bail, had criminals wandering around, had men in women's lockers, the whole route. Just think about all the different values that the left had accumulated over the last half century. And all of that is now being washed away by an American people. When you combine big government socialism and radical values, you're at about 20% maximum. There's a poll out today. Democrat Party favorability is down to 30%. Gallup last month had it down to 34%. And that's...
Yeah, so I think, like, the Democrats are really scrambling to hold on to power. It's kind of like, they really want, to stay in power. So they're pushing back hard, which is why you're seeing all this. You don't see this type of action, from the right. And I know, everybody's gonna bring up January 6th, but like a day, and it just came out. I believe that a lot of the people there, I think it was like 200 and something, were actually undercover, like feds or CIA or whatever, that were there. So that's still stuff. That story is still kind of breaking, where we're gonna get more details on about that, about January 6th situation. But I mean, seriously, a day, like not even long, not even the whole day, and people want to boo-hoo and whine about it. Oh, people died. Only one person died, Ashley Babbitt, and it was by a Capitol Police person who didn't even need to shoot her. She was unarmed. Like, that was BS. That guy should be charged with a crime. And before, people start saying, oh, well, other police people died. No, they didn't. Just because they died a couple days later, it wasn't even due to what happened there. Now, do the people that actually did any, like people that damaged any property, or people that, did hurt police officers, should they go to jail? Absolutely. I feel like they should. But you have to remember, the people that ended up in prison, they didn't have their due process. The left likes to cry and scream about due process, due process. Well, these people didn't. They just went to jail. And they were just in there waiting for trials, and that wasn't fair. So, yeah, that was what happened for one day. Now you have the left, which had the Summer of Love 2.0. You had the George Floyd riots. You had the Chaz Chop. You had so many people injured and that died because of the left, and you still have that continuing, and it's just getting worse. The threat levels are off the charts right now that the left is giving to the right, and it hasn't slowed down. It's continuing, and I'm gonna have another video which kind of sparks on that as well. But let's go ahead and finish up this video,
because that's the core. That they may eventually get down to about 20, based on work we do at America's New Majority Project. But those folks do feel genuinely that they're embattled. And I think we have to recognize this is not going to go away until the country makes a decisive decision.
So the White House, President Trump, and the DOJ want to look into the funding behind these protest groups. The DOJ has instructed a half a dozen U.S. attorneys' offices to look into where the funding flows down from. And in terms of that ICE detention facility protest in Portland, Oregon, here's what J.D. Vance said about it the other day. Listen here.
I believe it was in Oregon, where you had a federal building where there were men in black ski masks who were committing acts of violence, who were shutting down a government building. To the president's point, they don't come from nowhere. These are paid people. This is organized. They're committing acts of political terrorism on American soil.
We know that people are paid to protest. There's a group out of D.C. called Crowds on Demand that says its phone is ringing off the hook. So that is a no-brainer. But are people also being paid by other organizations to engage in violent protests, do you believe?
Oh, I think that there are people who subsidize groups who are basically advocating violence. And I think you're going to find, by the reports we see in public, you may well find that Soros's foundation is behind a great deal of this. But clearly, if you're going to go after this kind of terrorism and this kind of intense commitment to violence, you have to look at two places. You have to look at the money, and you have to look at the internet. I think we're going to discover that there are entire layers on the internet that are being used for the purpose of radicalizing people, moving them towards violence, convincing them that they have a mission to go out and kill somebody. And I think we have to see all of this as a pattern, not just a series of individual stories, but a pattern of violence across the nation, largely motivated by a handful of people, many of them very wealthy, who want a radically different America and know that they're not going to get it in an open, free debate.
Frightening situation. Mr. Speaker, as always, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click.
So you seen that, you heard that. So yeah, that's basically what's going on right now in regards to what people are talking about for civil war. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think we're actually in a civil war right now, or do you think we're still in civil strife? Or do you think it's just all like nonsense? You know, do you think people are just trying to hit us with propaganda or push, you know, to sow more division against left and right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you all heathens later. Bye.